Okay. Okay, so I can call the meeting to order. We have a quorum of 3 and the other 2 members on Zoom, so we have 5.
Hey,
And the first order is to approve last meeting's minutes. You're going to find to me any comments on them? Move approval.
second. On paper?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Then, public comments. We have two members of the public. You want to make any comments at the top of the hour? No? Neither of you? Okay, well, thank you. It's nice to have you here. In general, today, we have a fair amount to do that's in public session because it involves things like reviewing a FAQ, frequently asked questions, possibly reviewing the draft regulations that we've had on our agenda for a while, and some other things, some suggestions that Stephen has for some forms that we could use for things that are non-confidential. But we have quite a bit that we have to do in executive session because it involves some particular people's, employment and or finances. So I think what I'd like to do with the permission of everybody is to spend at least 10, 15 minutes to hit a few highlights of those public session things while you guys are here. And then the executive session as efficiently as we can. And if there's more time, I'd be happy to call you back. Does that sound okay? Thank you. Amber, I heard that you're the town board liaison for us now.
We're both liaisons.
Okay, you're co-liaisons, great. Now, is that going to work okay with you to have to leave for executive sessions and come back?
However it works, okay, I'm just here just to get a feel of how the ethics board works. Okay, so your executive sessions are closed to the town board
Yes, to everybody.
and the town board. Okay?
Yes. I think that's state law and it's also in the local code, I believe. Yeah, we are one of the most open ethics boards that I've ever heard of because we publish a lot of our opinions and opinion summaries if we get the permission of the person in the case of confidentiality, I would say. So on our opinions page, there's about 6 of them that are published in full that show our whole reasoning with the permission of people. And there's another 10 or so where we try to summarize things. And also under our code, if there's 3 forms of action we can take. One is a employee confidential advisory opinion. An employee comes to us just in confidence. They want to know where the line is. That's very confidential. There's outside complaints, and then there's the board initiated actions. And if either of those 2 result in an opinion, it gets shared with the principals and with the town board. With no restrictions at that point on you all making them public or do whatever you want with it, but we don't, because we advise you. So we send those to you, except in the case of confidential employee advisory opinions.
Your executive session is primarily just for the board, I'm assuming, correct?
Yes, only board members, the council, and the confidential secretary. Sometimes we'll invite somebody in if they have information on the case that we're looking at, right? Yeah, no one without an invitation from the outside. Yeah. So, yeah, we're happy and we're trying to be as open as possible, but we will have to do executive session on some stuff. Now, in announcements, besides you guys being liaisons, which is great because we haven't had a liaison before, Laura has been reappointed to the 5-year term. Thank you, Laura. It's not enslaving. You don't have to stay for 5 years.
There is a 13th Amendment, yeah.
Right, but we're glad that you're back so much. I wanted to ask you, BOE.town email, when I hit it, it still goes to Stephen Kiley as well. Do other people have that experience with the BOE email address? If so, we want to,
It didn't bounce me the other day.
it could just be some kind of artifact in my computer.
Could be, yeah.
But we all know that Stephen has left and that Stephen, who we have now, is probably the leading guy in municipal ethics, especially for small towns in the state. So we're like thrilled to have him, and we'll try to learn as much as we can from him in the 2 months or so that he's here.
There's a phone in there someplace. Where it
A
is.
phone, that's
I'm
okay.
sorry, Pete.
We're looking at some changes to the.
Sorry, Jeff,
Oh.
just a quick interruption.
Yeah.
I just checked my Board of Ethics mass email, and mine goes to Stephen also, so it's not your email,
Okay.
it's general.
Okay, we'll get him off there.
Okay.
Now, every year or so, we try to review the code. This will be the second review for anything that's needs to be improved or changed. And we were in the process with Stephen Kiley of recommending a couple of changes that we'll revisit with Stephen Leventhal. One is to reduce the claims in there that people report their recusals to us. There's just no form.
It's not
just-
practicable.
It's not happening. People aren't, hopefully people are reporting recusals to their board and to their, supervisor. That's what they're supposed to do. But there's no centralized record keeping system here that there might be in a perfect world. Stephen, do you have any thoughts on that one?
I think that's fine. It must be disclosed to the board that they belong to. Recusal is always coupled with disclosure.
Right.
And if you're a member of a board that makes a public record, then the recusal should be made as a part of the public record.
Yeah, our ideal, I think, was that it'll always be in the minutes. We
Right,
talked
in the
about making
minutes,
sure that it's
right.
in the minutes, right?
Now,
Yes.
we don't, go ahead. Stephen?
No, I please.
Okay, we don't necessarily hear of employees who disclose and recuse to their supervisor as,
Right.
as the process requires.
Yes. It's a common feature of a local ethics code. And it's also your experience, I would say, is the near universal experience. It's just a provision that is not practical, and people just don't do it. And I don't believe in having provisions in an ethics code that are just sort of there to create automatic violations. So I would be very comfortable with the idea of recommending that be deleted.
Yeah, okay. We'll go over those recommendations with you if you don't already have them in writing, because we already have them in writing to some degree.
Right, and I have some of my own. I can just give you one or two quick examples that caught my eye as I was preparing for this meeting, just to do it really, really quick.
Okay,
The Shelter Island Code of Ethics requires that complainants, those filing an ethics complaint, identify themselves. That is a requirement that I strongly disfavor. While it is much more convenient for the board to have the person's identity because they will then be available for additional questions and follow-up. I think the issue for the Board of Ethics is not whether, is not who filed the complaint, but whether the complaint appears to allege misconduct under the Code of Ethics. So, and I think that requiring that the complainant disclose their identity would have the effect of chilling complaints by people who were afraid of retaliation and afraid to disclose their identities. Now, I know that you have whistleblower protections in your code. I know that you indicate that their identity will be kept confidential, but still, people have to believe that and feel comfortable with it, and be so comfortable with it that they're willing to take the risk of disclosure in some instances. I think that if an ethics complaint on its face appears to make out a legitimate violation of the code, then that is a complaint that the board should take up, even if the complaint is not identified. Further, you have the authority to investigate your own sua sponte complaints, that is, complaints on your own motion.
Right.
And I don't really see a material difference between a complaint that you regard as justifying investigation with an unnamed complainant on the one hand, and a sua sponte investigation initiated on your own on the other hand.
Yeah, and that's actually sort of happened already.
Yeah, I mean, it happens informally almost.
Yeah, but you're right. I guess we were concerned about a flood of spurious claims.
Well, unfortunately, that is the burden of membership on your board, that you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. And you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, if I can mix my metaphors.
Yeah.
And so the next one that just sort of caught my eye was that you used the phrase probable cause as a standard for determining whether an ethics complaint will be investigated. Probable cause is a legal term of art that applies in the criminal law. It's the very high burden of that a police officer must meet before making an arrest. I think the phrase that you would be better off using is reasonable cause. And it's reasonable cause to believe that an ethics violation may have occurred. Really, in my view, it can be stated in this way. If the facts alleged, if proven, would constitute a violation of the Code of Ethics, then in my view, that's a complaint that justifies investigation.
I have no problems with that. Laura, what do you think about it?
I had trouble with the use of the term, and I thought we were going to define it,
I don't think.
but I guess we never did.
It's defined more, yeah.
I'll point out that there's even a place in the code where it says, under board-initiated investigations, if the board has a reasonable basis to believe that there is probable cause. So that's
Okay,
Yeah, I like that language.
makes a lot of sense.
right.
Did you have some others off?
No, I just glanced at it quickly, but I think we can walk through it together and really work on that in a methodical way.
Right, and the other larger one we had was adding something to follow state law on what is non-recusable. And
Yes.
and so we do need to get that.
Well, that's in there, right? We decided it was a big bundle of typos in that paragraph.
Right, some of it.
So we have to straighten that out.
Right, exactly, that language.
Yeah.
You might want to take a look at the Code of Ethics that I drafted for, and that was adopted by either the town of Huntington or the town of Southampton. They're both available online.
Yeah,
And that'll give you an idea of the way I handled some of those issues.
yeah. that was one of our starting points a couple of years ago, Stephen, was
Yeah.
you annotated a version of the Southampton code proposal at
Sure.
that time.
Sure,
So,
sure.
Anyway, it's great having your expertise, and as soon as we can, we'd like to move forward with that.
Great.
While I'm on a related subject, we've had some draft procedures, right? For a long
Yes.
time, that we all got to a point of being comfortable with and liking. My only concern being, we don't want to put our foot in it somewhere there where someone said, well, the code doesn't say
Well, we
that.
have to be consistent, yeah.
Yeah, but a procedure, and I think it's pretty consistent, but I would love for Stephen to,
Well, I need to go through that. We need to go through that again.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and
right, for,
Sure. And I can provide you with some procedures that I drafted for other municipalities. And the code itself should authorize the Board of Ethics to adopt its own rules of procedure.
it does, it does.
Okay, so then what you do is consistent with the code.
right, but it's not as board approved as the code is itself. But I just don't want to make some mistake in the procedure that gets us into jam.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, I forgot where,
We've gone quite a ways down that road with the procedures, but I would love you to look at it, Stephen.
Sure.
And then there's the FAQ that we've been working on. And just when we had a pretty good version like this, Stephen has come in with a version. Stephen,
and I marked it up and I don't remember where that stands. I sent you an email marking it up.
I think it's actually posted on our website.
The
Well,
mark that-
here,
The latest.
here's my philosophical approach to FAQs and to plain language guides and even to code drafting itself. The people who are obligated to comply with these documents are not mostly lawyers. They're probably not even all college graduates. And I don't say that to demean anybody. I say that because ethics regulations and ethics guides are useless if they're not understood by the people who are regulated. And so particularly with something like an FAQ, which is just a quick guide, you want to reduce it to its simplest form. And so that's why I provided you with the, and brevity, I think, is also a value, because if something is too long, people aren't going to read it. The shorter it is, the more likely it is to be read.
Okay. I saw your hand up, Deborah.
Thank you. This just goes back, did I hear or mishear one topic back? Stephen, did you say that if we want to amend our code, we don't have to have town board approval, that we can do it ourselves? Or
No,
did I
no, we
mishear
do.
that? We do.
We
I'm
No,
recommend to
no,
them.
I'm sorry. You do not have the authority to amend the code of ethics.
Okay, that's
Because
the way.
that is codified in the village code. That is law. And
Okay.
only the town board has the authority to legislate. What you are authorized to do is to adopt your own rules of procedure.
Oh,
And that's what I was referring to.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much for clarifying.
Sure.
So, we got to come back on all three of these things, probably in descending order of importance, the code, the fact, and the procedure, I think, procedures. And do we want to divide up the chores a little bit for someone to focus on the procedures with Stephen in the interim period, and someone to focus on the fact? Does anybody really like jumping in one or the other?
I've already been through the fact very carefully and made a bunch of suggestions. And what I haven't done is gone through it again to see if it's,
Stephen's proposal is dramatically different.
right, I understand that.
By the way, for the audience, draft FAQ and draft regulations are both under discussion documents on our public website. So you can see them.
Okay, I'm happy to take on, either by myself or share the facts one, because I've actually had a class in how to write on a 5th grade level, and so I know a little bit about this. And besides, it's not procedural, it's not legal, so it's something a layperson like I can do.
That's great.
Let's want you and Stephen, and loop me in from once in a while, but you guys take the lead on comparing our latest fact, which has been edited by everybody here, with the approach that Stephen's suggested.
Sure. And do you want to set a kind of basic date by which you'd like this back, or what do you think?
Do we want to what?
Spring.
I was asking for when you want us to have done this.
It'd be nice to agree on an approach, whether a really short one or this longer one that has like 10 questions, and if you click on the question, you get the answer. They're kind of different approaches to the same thing,
Okay.
right? So, Deborah, if you could talk with Stephen and then keep us apprised during the interim, and then at our next meeting, we'll also post again what's the latest that we have and see if we can bring it home.
Okay.
Purpose of the fact being to send to employees as well.
Okay. So that's my job. Then I don't have to do procedures.
Yeah.
I'll look at the procedures.
Can I just mention that in the other municipalities that I represent, I have encouraged them to prepare a little booklet. The size of the booklet, if you take an 8.5 by 11 page and fold it in half, that's about the size of the booklet. And the booklet begins with a plain language guide of about 2 pages in length. And it's followed by select portions of the Code of Ethics, primarily the Code of Conduct, to keep the booklet short and simple. And that is a handy tool. It's even handy for you folks to carry with you. It can be placed in the onboarding or orientation folder of new town employees. It's and of course distributed to all town officers and employees.
How would that fit in with what we already do with employees?
It would be very
I'm
different.
just asking Christina or.
Yeah, it would be very different. Currently, we do give them acknowledgement of the ethics code. We distributed the English guide, which is like 3 pages, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have it's not part of the onboarding process.
Right, but in the new employee handbook, there's something in there about the ethics code, right?
Oh, yeah, that you acknowledge it, that you know where it is and that you read it.
Right, and so this would kind of, if we did this would replace the plain English guide. And ironically, Stephen, we went to FAQ from plain English guide after you talked to us in August and said you should do a FAQ.
Well, both, I think, is the more
We
information.
just have to make sure they're all consistent.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Despite what my young niece might tell you, there's no such thing as too much information.
Okay, well, we're here to learn and teach. Bob, any thoughts on all that?
No, I do like that idea of a short booklet, and that would hopefully maybe include the FAQ.
It certainly could, yep.
I think that would be very useful.
I'm on the procedures. I was thinking these initially would be like, I'm a tax lawyer, so Treasury regulations with like interpreting provisions of the code. And actually, yeah. Now maybe that's not what we've done at all.
No, it doesn't try to interpret them.
Right.
It came up, it was very useful. Somebody a week or two ago asked me, how do I file the complaint, or what happens if I file a complaint?
Right.
And I just clipped that part of the draft procedures and said this.
Mhm.
I mean, even though it's just a draft that describes it, there's
Yeah,
shorter procedures in the
it
code.
says they have to identify themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to, if we're gonna, we have to,
I think it's helpful to have those procedures. It's certainly helpful to me.
oh, I agree, I'm not saying they're not helpful. I just, sometimes I think of something I see something in the law and I said, well, we could interpret that in a regulation, but we're not gonna do that.
No, as little as
Okay.
possible, because we'll kind of interpret it in cases a little bit.
Okay,
You know, the most important procedural document is the procedure for conducting hearings once you've determined that a complaint warrants a hearing, because that's where a person's due process rights are implicated.
Mhm.
And so that's really, I can provide you with a sample
that would be great.
set of hearing procedures.
I
We
will
have
say,
something in there, but I don't,
we haven't had any hearings or got close to them in 2 years. If we investigate a complaint, we've invited the complainant in sometimes, and always talk to the subject of the complaint. But
Well,
not
yeah, that's fine for sort of informal triage. But if the thing escalates into a genuine, serious enforcement proceeding by the Board of Ethics, then you want to make sure that you abide by a set of rules, that you conduct a fact-finding hearing,
yeah,
that it be conducted in the presence of a stenographer, that the respondent have a right to the assistance of counsel. All of those rights and procedures need to be observed.
right, good. And yeah, under 819 investigations B, there's a paragraph about witnesses and production of books and things like that. That's all that we have as a paragraph. So it'd be good to flesh that out if and when it comes to that. Thank you,
Hopefully, it never will.
but
Yeah, it's hard to imagine.
better prepared than sorry. Okay. Well, also, I guess, let's, a little more on this kind of thing. Stevens provided us with three documents from Huntington.
That's fine.
And it was in email form, and there were two of them were a form, an ethics complaint form and a complaint.
One is a request for advice, and the other is a complaint.
Right, so that's the two things we do, the third one being board-initiated actions. And we just had like email us, with as much information as possible. I don't think this is bad to have a form like this at all. Even though we're a lot smaller than Huntington.
Well, the genesis of that is that I'm sure you have found this already to be the case, but most people do not understand what we mean when we use the word ethics. They think that anything that to them doesn't seem right is an appropriate subject for an ethics complaint. And of course, and so that complaint form and even the request for advice is really designed to focus their minds on what a real ethics issue is. And of course, a real ethics issue is defined by Article 18 of the General Municipal Law, by the Town of Shelter Island Code of Ethics, and by case law and other authorities. And so I've tried to identify topics that are the most common subject matters of an ethics question.
but you allow for other, which is fine.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I like this. I just need some time to digest it. Any comments on the forms that Stephen,
No, I looked at them quickly and they're really interesting.
yeah. Then the plain language guide to gifts and favors, that seems like a Christmas greeting. Christmas is past.
Exactly. The holiday time is the riskiest time of year for
Okay,
Really?
people to unintentionally
did you see it?
violate the code of ethics by accepting a prohibited gift. So that's
Yeah.
why it's framed in that way. That's something that, I like to encourage department heads to distribute or post around holiday time as a reminder to people.
I think that's great, and it's all in the direction of education and awareness that we'd like to have more.
That is the key.
But
Any other
Stephen,
thoughts?
on the,
Bob?
on the form, you do say confident, you do ask for contact information.
Yes,
Would we
that's on
alter
the,
that? Oh,
that's
go
on
ahead.
the request for advice. But if you
That's
look
just for
at the
advice.
complaint form, it
Uh-huh.
says optional next to the name.
Oh, okay.
I don't mind having anonymous complaints coming in at all. What do other members feel about that?
Sorry, I missed it. What was the question?
Anonymous complaints are fine?
For the reasons that Stephen, that I'm okay with.
Yeah. I mean, it's always nice to be able to contact the complainant if he or she wants us to, but. Okay, so,
Yeah, I think we had really, gone back and forth on this. We understood the pros and cons of it when we were trying to figure it out. And now that we have, expert guidance on a better way to do this, I think we should go with it. And if it creates a problem, we can change it back at a later date.
I do too. Bob?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's good.
Okay, well, since the board is, that's a definite. Now,
You know what would increase the volume of inquiries that you get? Ethics training.
yeah,
Because if you're not receiving requests for advice, it isn't because people aren't encountering ethics issues all the time.
Yeah.
It's because they're not realizing that they are.
right. That is so true. And in fact, I was talking to a town manager a week or two ago, and he said, are there any books on this that we could help to advise my employees and myself on, like, appearances of impropriety? Because so much of this is, the financial stuff tries to be black and white, but there's all these appearances that we're trying to deal with in the common law too. Is there any book on that, Stephen?
Well, Duff, if you send me a reminder, I will send you an article. It's actually a chapter from a book published by the State Bar Association that I wrote, and I'd be happy to. It's an article about what I call common law conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
It's ethics violations that don't violate the literal language of a statute or a local code, but that are give rise to a conflict.
I've got that book. But is that like appearance of impropriety? There's wide ranges of appearances, as you know.
Right. I think, appearance of impropriety is a very vague and really dangerous concept. An appearance of impropriety should be found only in the most serious cases where the conflicts are clear and obvious, such
Right.
as when there's been self-dealing or prejudice or greed, and not when the conflicts are either speculative or petty, for several reasons. First of all, what may appear to you to seem improper, to appear to be improper, may not appear that way to someone else. And the Board of Ethics is not the governing body. The Board of Ethics is not the legislature. So you're not there to make rules. You're there to interpret existing rules. So courts have invalidated government actions, even where the letter of the law was not violated. but only in cases where the conduct is so obviously bad that it would undermine public confidence in government. That really is the key. An appearance of impropriety, in my view, arises when the facts would seriously and substantially undermine public confidence in government. The
Right.
leading case in this area was decided in the 1970s. It came from the town of Tuxedo, and on the eve of a transfer of power from one administration to another, a controversial development project came up for approval by the town board. The decisive vote cast in favor of approving the contract was cast by a town board member who was vice president of the public relations firm that had the contract to do all the public relations work for the developer. The court said, viewing these facts, how could a member of the public not conclude that that board member's vote was motivated by his own personal interests rather than by the public interest? And the court invalidated the vote. So, that's the type of case, in my view, in which a prohibited appearance of impropriety arises. Otherwise, the standard is vague. It doesn't give sufficient guidance either to the people who are regulated as to what conduct is prohibited, or to you, the regulators, as to what the standards are that you should be enforcing.
Yeah, yeah. And we've looked at the Tuxedo case in a couple of the common law determinations that we try to make.
Mhm.
Let me ask this, what about if it's your neighbor or your best friend?
Right.
Let's say a building inspector. The deal,
Right.
it's either his neighbor or his best friend. It doesn't fall into any of this financial interest. Where's that fall?
Well, those are two separate, I'm going to take them separately.
Yeah,
Proximity to the site, in and of itself, is not a disqualifying conflict. There has to be something about the proximity that is disqualifying, such as where there's an application that is, for a property next door, and it's going to create an eyesore or deprive you of some view that you prize, or create traffic congestion or noise or dust or something about the proximity to the site that has an impact on the officer or employee. Social relationships generally are not a basis for a mandated recusal.
mhm. Right. And
Particularly in a community like Shelter Island,
yeah,
where the communities are small, relationships are complicated. If we were to disqualify everybody over a social relationship, then it would be very hard to populate boards and to establish quorums of the board to act that are qualified to act.
and the board has put out, I think about a 3-sentence long attempted guidance on that, which I hope you've seen, or if not, I want you to look at. That basically says, if you're sure you can put the public interest above your private interest as a friend or something,
You don't think you can be objective?
yeah, something like that. So, all right, well, we could talk for hours about this and have previously, but we gotta move on. Anything more on these subjects for now?
Not for me.
Anything from the liaisons? Okay.
I think this is a good idea.
What?
I think doing something like this is a good idea.
Yeah, we might want to have.
In the forum.
Yeah.
I think someone actually might pull something like this up before they'll pull up the fact or anything else.
If they were listed
Yeah.
on there.
Mhm.
Okay,
Discussions where we put it.
well,
Right.
thank you. And we have like several matters involving individuals' employment or financial interests that for those reasons, we have to move into executive session, and I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.